You hear the story of Godstow Abbey and you expect an old ruin in quiet fields. You do not expect a place where people refuse to walk after dark. You do not expect a place where monks once locked their doors at sunset because they feared a woman who had died centuries before. Visitors talk about a figure with pale skin and dark hair. They talk about a woman who stands beside the broken arches at midnight. They talk about Rosamund Clifford. They call her Fair Rosamund. They say she was the most beautiful woman in the kingdom of Henry II. They say she was also the reason Queen Eleanor carried a hatred so deep that even the grave could not hold it. History gives you facts. Legends give you the truth that frightens people. This is the legend. You start in the year 1173. The rain hits the courtyard of Woodstock Palace. The stones shine in the torchlight. Queen Eleanor stands at a window. She watches the guards hurry to close the gates. Her face stays calm. Her eyes do not. She knows her husband is not with her tonight. She knows he is in the secret house he built for Rosamund. People whisper that he designed a maze to hide her. They whisper that he planted tall hedges and narrow paths. They whisper that only the king knew the way in. The queen listens to every whisper. Her silence grows heavier. She waits until the torches outside die down. She calls her maid. She orders a cloak. She orders a small lantern. She walks out of the palace without a sound. No one stops her. No one dares ask questions. She walks into the wet night and enters the dark woods of Woodstock. The path is hard to follow. Mud sticks to her shoes. Branches pull at her cloak. The lantern shines on stones that look like bones scattered on the ground. She keeps walking. She knows where she is going. She heard enough from spies and servants to trace the secret path to the maze. The hedge walls rise like giants covered in leaves. The air changes when she steps in. It feels colder, it feels heavy. She holds the lantern near the ground to see the footprints left by a guard. She follows them. Each turn feels wrong. Each silence feels longer. The queen keeps going until the hedges open into a round clearing. The house stands in the center. You would expect a hidden room. You would expect a small cottage. You'd get a beautiful building with carved doors and warm windows. The king never hid the truth of his affection. He hid only the location. The queen walks to the door. She does not knock. She pushes it open. Rosamund sits inside. Her hair falls over her shoulders. A candle burns beside her. She turns, her eyes widened. She stands. She looks at the Queen of England. Her hands tremble. Before Rosamund speaks, the queen steps closer. She places the lantern on the table. The flame flickers. The air feels tighter. You hear different versions of what happened next. Some say the queen held a bowl of poison. Some say she carried a knife. Some say she offered Rosamund a choice between two deaths. The legends compete. The fear remains the same. You hear the version told by the monks of Godstow Abbey. They said Rosamund begged for mercy. They said the queen leaned close. They said Rosamund screamed once. They said the silence after that scream lasted too long. The king returned the next day and found the house empty. He searched the maze. He searched the woods. He found Rosamund dead under a tree with her hands folded, her eyes still open, her lips blue. The king ordered her burial at Godstow Abbey. He demanded prayers. He demanded candles. He demanded a shrine. The queen did not attend the burial. She locked herself in her chamber for 2 days. Some said she prayed. Some said she smiled. No one could agree. For years the monks prayed for Rosamund. They lit candles every night. They whispered that her death had stained the abbey. They whispered that a shadow moved near her tomb. They whispered that the queen had killed not just a woman but a soul that did not want to leave the world. You reach the next part of the story 100 years later. Godstow Abbey stands quiet under a grey sky. The river runs behind it. The trees bend in the wind. A monk walks through the cloister. He carries a candle. The sun has set. He hears footsteps on the gravel. He turns. No one is there. The footsteps continue. They circle him. The candle flickers. The monk starts to run. He reaches the chapel and closes the door. He leans against it. His breath shakes. He hears the door creak without being touched. He sees a pale hand slide through the narrow space. The candle falls from his hand. He screams. The next morning, the other monks find him on the chapel floor. His hair has turned white. The abbey records say they moved Rosamund's remains after that event. They tried to bury her deeper. They tried to bless the ground. They tried to erase the legend. The haunting grew stronger. Visitors claimed they saw a woman near the river. She looked like she searched for someone. She reached out but always faded before she touched anything. People said she whispered a name. They said she whispered Henry. Some said she cried. Some said she walked with her hands folded like she had in her grave. Some said she watched them with eyes that seemed alive even though her face looked drained of color. The queen died long after Rosamund. People expected peace. People expected the haunting to stop. Instead, it grew worse. Some visitors swore they saw 2 figures in the ruins. One pale, one dark, one quiet and sorrowful, one with eyes full of rage. Legends say Rosamund searches for justice. Legends say the queen returns to stop her from speaking the truth. You do not know if that truth is about betrayal or murder. You only know the way the night air feels heavier near the old stones. You only know the way people avoid the path after sunset. You reach the final part of this first half of the story. A group of travelers arrives at Godstow. They want to see the ruins. They want to hear the old stories. The sun sets behind them. They light small lamps and walk through the broken holes. One traveler steps near the old altar. He sees a woman in the corner. She looks young. Her dress looks torn at the edges. She looks straight at him. Her eyes are dark. Her face looks soft but empty. She holds her hands at her waist like she is guarding something. He whispers for his friend to look. The friend turns. The corner is empty. The traveler feels a cold touch on his wrist. He looks down. A pale hand presses his skin and then vanishes. He runs out of the abbey without looking back. When he reaches the road, he feels the same cold touch on his shoulder. He turns. This time he sees a figure in a cloak. Her crown reflects the moonlight. Her face is calm. Her eyes carry no mercy. She raises a hand and then disappears into the air. The traveler leaves Godstow the next morning without waiting for his companions. He refuses to speak of what he saw. Years later, he writes a letter to a historian. He writes only one line. You read it and feel the weight of the legend. He writes that Rosamund is not alone in that place. You return to Godstow Abbey in the late winter of 1421. Snow covers the ground. The river moves in a slow current. The air feels sharp. The monks walk with candles cupped in their hands. They avoid the old burial ground. They fear the reports of a woman who walks near the broken stones. They fear her silence. They fear the cold that enters a room before she appears. You read the Abbey chronicles. Monks describe nights when the candles went out without wind. They describe footsteps that follow them in empty halls. They describe a shape that stands at the far end of the cloister. They describe a figure with long hair and bare feet. They describe a face without warmth. The chronicles mention another presence. They write about a second figure that appears only when the first one comes too close. They write about a woman with a crown. They write about eyes filled with purpose. They write about a shadow that seems to guard the ruins. They write about a presence that watches with a firm stare rather than sorrow. The monks do not speak the queen's name. They only write that the second figure always appears when Rosamund steps toward the living. You follow a young monk named Brother Alwyn. He hears the haunting stories every night from the older monks. He wants proof. He wants to see the truth himself. He carries an old lantern and walks through the cloister after sunset. His breath makes small clouds in the cold air. He keeps one hand on the stone wall. He enters the chapter house. The light from his lantern shakes on the carved seats. He hears soft movement behind him. He turns. He sees no one. He walks deeper. He hears the sound again. This time it feels close. He lifts the lantern. A pale face appears in the corner. Rosamund stands with her hands folded. Her hair hangs loose. Her eyes watch him with silent pleading. She steps forward. The monk feels a cold weight settle in his chest. His voice breaks. He cannot move. The lantern flame rises for a moment. The walls grow darker. Rosamund reaches out. Her hand moves toward Brother Alwyn. The flame shrinks. The room chills. A second figure appears behind Rosamund. The queen stands still. Her cloak moves without wind. Her crown reflects the small light from the lantern. Her eyes hold sharp focus. She does not look at the monk. She looks only at Rosamund. Rosamund steps back as if pushed by a force the monk cannot see. Her face twists in pain. She vanishes into the dark like a candle going out. The queen turns her head toward the monk. Her face carries no expression. She fades without sound. Brother Alwyn collapses to the ground. He tries to steady his breath. He crawls to the exit. He reaches the cloister and stands. His hands shake. He refuses to speak of what he saw for 2 months. The chronicles record more sightings. A group of pilgrims arrives from the south. They want blessings. They want a safe journey. The monks tell them not to stay after nightfall. The pilgrims ignore the warning. They set up small tents near the abbey walls. At midnight, a woman in a torn dress walks among the tents. She touches the canvas with her hand. The fabric freezes at the spot she touches. A child inside wakes and screams. The pilgrims run out to see what happened. They find tracks in the snow. The tracks lead toward the burial ground. They follow them with torches. They find a figure standing near a broken stone. She looks at them with dark eyes. Her lips move. They hear a name, Henry. The torches shake. The wind rises. The figure steps closer. The light begins to shrink. The pilgrims run toward the gate. Behind them, the cold grows stronger. One man turns back and sees a second figure appear behind Rosamund. The crowned figure raises a hand. Rosamund disappears. The man falls in the snow from fear. His friends pull him up and drag him out through the gate. He does not return the next day. He leaves the region without speaking to anyone. The monks demand a solution. They call a priest from Oxford. His name is Father Edric. He arrives with a staff and a small wooden chest. He enters the abbey at noon. He walks the grounds. He sees the ruins. He sees the burial stones. He listens to the wind. He asks the monks to show him the grave of Rosamund. They take him to the stone. He kneels beside it. He touches the frozen earth. He closes his eyes. He stays there for a long time. When he rises, he tells the monks that the haunting does not come from the ground. It comes from the air around it. It comes from a death that did not pass in peace. He stays the night in the abbey. He sits inside the old chapel with a candle burning beside him. He opens his chest and removes a small book of prayers. He begins to read. Hours pass. The candle burns low. The air becomes cold. The flame trembles. Father Edric lifts his head. Rosamund stands at the far end of the chapel. Her face looks pale and strained. She moves toward him, her hands reach out, her lips move with soft pleading. The priest feels the pull of her presence. It feels heavy, it feels full of sorrow. He raises his book, he starts a prayer. Rosamund stops. Her eyes fill with fear. She turns her head. The priest follows her gaze. The queen stands behind her. The crowned figure looks at the priest. Her stare feels sharp. The candle goes out. The room falls into darkness. The monks hear a loud cry. They run to the chapel. They find the priest on the floor. His pulse beats fast. His eyes stay open. He whispers one phrase before he loses consciousness. He tells them that Rosamund tried to speak. He tells them the queen stopped her. The monks keep the priest inside the infirmary for 2 days. When he wakes, he refuses to return to the chapel. He tells the abbot that the haunting cannot be ended. He says the truth between the two spirits controls the ruins. He says Rosamund wants to reveal the way she died. He says the queen wants to stop that truth from being heard. The abbot writes all of this in the chronicles. He records the priest's warning. He orders the abbey gates closed every night. He orders the younger monks never to walk alone after sunset. He moved forward to the year 1538. Godstow Abbey stands near the end of its life. King Henry VIII orders the dissolution of many religious houses. Soldiers arrive to take control. They break altars, they empty chests, they drive out the monks. They leave nothing but silent walls and dust. A soldier named Thomas is ordered to check the burial grounds. He walks with a torch. He sees the old tomb of Rosamund. The stone looks cracked. The soil looks disturbed. He bends to check the ground. A cold breath touches his neck. He turns. Rosamund stands behind him. Her hands reach toward him. Her face looks full of panic. She tries to speak. Her mouth moves without sound. Thomas raises his torch. A second figure appears behind her. The queen stands still. Her face looks calm. Her presence feels stronger than the cold. Rosamund tries to take another step. The queen raises her hand. The torch flame bends as if pulled by a force. Rosamund vanishes. The queen looks at Thomas. His arm drops. His breath stops. He falls backward onto the ground. Other soldiers find him minutes later. He wakes with a shocked stare. He speaks only one sentence. He says the dead still argue in the ruins. The soldiers leave the abbey in ruins. They do not repair the walls. They do not protect the tombs. They walk away and leave the ground to silence. People avoid the area for years. The stories spread from village to village. Travelers repeat the tale of two spirits. One seeking truth, one guarding a secret. You reach the final chapter of this story in the present day. The ruins of Godstow Abbey sit near the river. Grass grows between the stones. Birds fly over the open arches. Visitors come with cameras and quiet steps. They walk through the broken halls. Some feel the cold. Some hear faint footsteps. Some smell old candle smoke. A historian named Clara visits on a cold evening. She studies the chronicles. She wants to understand the legend. She carries a small notebook. She walks through the nave. She touches the stone pillars. She kneels near the burial ground. She feels the air change. The grass stops moving. The light dims. She turns her head. Rosamund stands beside the tomb. Her hands look thin. Her eyes look full of pain. Clara rises slowly. She does not run. She asks Rosamund what she wants. Rosamund lifts her hand to her throat. She moves her lips. Clara steps closer. She hears a small sound. It feels like a broken whisper. It feels like a plea for her story to be heard. Clara reaches into her pocket for her notebook. She wants to write the words. A sharp cold enters the air. Clara feels her breath freeze. She turns. The queen stands behind Rosamund. Her crown reflects the fading light. Her face looks calm but firm. She raises a hand. Rosamund tries to move but cannot. She disappears. The air shakes. The queen looks at Clara. The stare feels heavy and direct. Clara drops her notebook. She cannot speak. She cannot breathe for a moment. Then the queen vanishes without sound. Clara leaves the ruins in silence. She returns home and writes a long report. She does not mention the queen's face. She does not describe Rosamund's whispered plea. She writes only what she feels others can accept. She writes that Godstow Abbey carries a presence of old sorrow. She writes that some truths remain trapped in the air. She writes that the ruins hold a conflict that never ended. Travelers still report two figures in the shadows. One soft and pleading, one stern and watchful. They appear without warning. They vanish without footprints. People feel that the ground remembers a secret death. People feel that the truth never reached daylight. You end the story with the same line found in an old traveler's letter. He visited Godstow Abbey in the 17th century. He wrote 9 words that still fit the ruins today. He wrote that Rosamund is not alone in that place.